The International Monetary Fund has released its Regional Economic Outlook for Sub-Saharan Africa. It says the region will grow by 5%. Let's get you more on this one. And of course, we're joined in our Johannesburg studios by our resident geo-economic analyst, Mr. William Gumede. As always, it's a pleasure to see you, sir. Now, talk to us about the latest report by the IMF. What's new? What are the key findings, really?
You know, what is really the interesting part of it is that we're still going to grow. Given the stuff what's going on in the continent now, we've got Ebola as a real threat. We still have local conflicts, whether it's in Nigeria or whether it's in East Africa and so on. So what is really happening, what the IMF is telling us in terms of forecasting, a couple of African countries will be growing, and another group actually will slow down. So that's the group, in West Africa impacted, by the Ebola virus, and then other countries who are, impacted by civil wars that's still going on.
Now, you speak about the countries which will be impacted, which obviously won't grow, but the ones that we're seeing growth, what's causing that growth, really?
I mean, it's fascinating. The growth comes from two sources. I mean, the first thing is clearly from services. So we're seeing tourism, telecommunications, and so on. That really is now, driving Africa's growth. And then secondly, of course, the old traditional extractive industry, mining, oil, gas, and so on. Those are the two things. Now, what we're not getting, sadly not, we're not getting the manufacturing sector. African manufacturing sector is still lagging behind. But maybe another, the third driver of this growth is also agriculture in many African countries, in places like Ethiopia, for example. And then the fourth element has been investment in infrastructure. The countries in Africa that has been putting and pumping the money into infrastructure, we can see the growth.
Now, according to the report, Africa's manufacturing sector that you mentioned produces more jobs and wealth. It's been struggling to grow. I mean, why is this so?
The problem is we're still not putting the money into manufacturing, If you look historically for the last 100 years, the developing countries that really have done well, whether it's South Korea, Taiwan, Malaysia, and so on, are those countries who actually make things and sell it. Now, unfortunately, African growth for the last 50 years and the last 10 years has been, we take things out of the earth, where it's raw material, where it's oil, where it's gas, then we export it as raw as that. And then it gets to, the people that buy it from us, they clean it up, they refine it, and they send it back to us more expensive and so on. So, as Africans, we're still not there, of actually building manufacturing sectors.
Is there a point where what we're taking out kind of just runs out, really?
Absolutely. I mean, that really is the problem because, now what's happening is most of the economies are growing on the basis of the extractive industries. Of course, other kinds of economies in Africa, we're talking about in Kenya and so on, and where we have tourism and the services industry, and in Kenya, again, the telecommunications, so there's at least some kind of diversification. But actually, the interesting part of it is, a country like Ethiopia has been doing the most among these sort of new African countries in investing really in the manufacturing sector.
Now, what can be done to sort of sustain the growth in those countries where we will see positive growth?
I mean, the most important thing is to move from extractive industries, from your oil and so on to other kinds of industries, or, from copper to other kinds of industries, and create things out of there. Now, that really will give us a virtuous cycle of growth. So that really is going to be important.
And will that then translate into poverty reduction?
Absolutely, because, the growth that we've seen so far, we've seen is, is 5% plus growth projected for this year and for next year, but it's not a kind of growth that's been creating the jobs, or not a kind of jobs that's been dealing with poverty significantly. I mean, the problem really is with the kind of extractive industries that we have got in Africa that's fueling the growth and so on. It's only a few people benefit from it, but we still have a lot of opportunities if we can just, get the necessary political will, and, if we produce nickel or we produce iron, can we diversify it? Can we add value to it where we can create the jobs?
All right, Mr. Gumede, always a pleasure having you here with us. That's our resident geo-economic analyst, Mr. William Gumede.